I didn't know if you wanted to read everything first or
Yep.
the roll call.
Yes. My name is Doug Ferguson. I'd like to call the meeting of the CMAQ Project Selection Committee to order. To start off with, I'd like to read a statement. As permitted by the Governor's Disaster Declaration of August 21st, 2020, the determination has been made that it is not practical or prudent for this committee to meet in person. To ensure a transparent and open meeting as possible, we posted the meeting materials approximately 1 week in advance. We will provide a recording of this meeting linked on our website, and we will take all votes by roll call. With that, Elliot, if you'd like to read the committee members for attendance purposes.
Yeah, I'll go through the names. Please say if you're here. And if you're filling in for somebody, please state your name after I call the regular committee member's name. Darwin Burkhart.
Here.
Doug Ferguson.
Here.
Mark Pitstick.
Here.
Mayor Shelkey. Chris Schmidt.
Here.
Chris Snyder.
Present.
And Jess Schreiber.
Here.
All right.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, agenda changes and announcements. Just as a regular update, please remember to mute yourself when not speaking. Just helps to reduce some of the background noise. There are no agenda changes and staff has no announcements. Are there any announcements from any other committee members? All right, hearing none. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. The draft minutes from September 3rd were posted with the meeting materials. If everybody's had a chance, do I have a motion?
I'll move Snyder. Chris Schmidt, second.
Thank you. With that, is there any changes or comments on the minutes? All right, hearing none. Elliot, will you do a roll call vote for the members?
Okay. Darwin Burkhart.
Aye.
Doug Ferguson.
Aye.
Mark Pitstick.
Aye.
Mayor Shelkey. Chris Schmidt.
Aye.
Chris Snyder.
Aye.
Jess Schreiber.
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. Moving on to 4.0 program monitoring. Programming status sheets on the CMAQ and deferred projects along with the PAP-L projects were posted on the website. I will add that those are as reflective as of the end of federal fiscal year 2020. And so obligations are reflected in those status sheets. We will be conducting status updates on projects over the next month, and we'll update those sheets once we get those status updates. That includes moving line items to fiscal year 2021, along with addressing any projects that have reached their sunset year and being added to the deferred list. Also posted was the programming summary and obligation goal. We finished 2020 with an obligation goal of just under 67 million. This was short of our obligation goal of 115 million, which was the total amount that would have been appropriated for the fiscal year. With that, we will add the leftover obligation balance onto the obligation goal for 2021, showing an obligation goal of 163 million. Are there any questions on either the status sheets or the summary and obligation goals?
Yeah, Doug, just on the obligation goal, can you say a little bit about what that means moving forward? I mean, we're way under the meeting the obligation goal, but is that a problem, or we got a bunch of stuff coming in the pipeline, or how?
Right. Yeah, so we do have a bunch of things in the pipeline. There's approximately 57 million in advanced construction. So the hope was that a good portion of that would get converted at the end of the fiscal year. A majority of it obviously was not. So there is the ability to take care of that 48.8 million that didn't get obligated just through the AC, but there are several large projects that are sitting in 2021 that are looking to move forward. So at this point in time, there's no concern because of our obligations over the last several years. I think we're in a fairly good place with the program. There's no threat from anything lapsing, and there's always the possibility of rescissions, but with just we have a fairly low unobligated balance in FEMAS, so I'm not terribly worried about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, not a problem. Anybody else? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to project changes. Elliot, if you'll go through the project changes as they were submitted.
Okay, we received 6 project change requests. I'll go through each one, and then I'll open up to questions and comments, and then we'll have one vote for all of them after discussion. First up is the Schellenberg Golf Road and Meacham Road multi-use path project. Sponsors requesting a cost increase of $59,360 CMAQ funding for Phase 2 engineering in 2021 for land acquisition services that will be incorporating the Phase 2 engineering agreement. The project is re-ranked and the ranking remains the same at 8. Staff recommends the approval of the requested cost increase. Next is the Niles Pace Bus Stop Access Improvements Project. Sponsors requesting a transfer of $106,096 in CMAQ funding for Phase 2 engineering from 2021 to construction engineering in 2022. Sponsor is proposing to fully fund Phase 2 engineering with local sources. Staff recommends the approval of the requested transfer. Third is the Bellwood St. Charles Road Access to Transit Project. Sponsors requesting a cost increase of $460,000 CMAQ funding for construction engineering in 2021 due to updated construction cost estimates to better reflect existing site conditions for that project. Staff recommends the approval of this requested cost increase. Fourth is the Oak Forest TOD Area Access to Transit Improvements Project. Sponsor is requesting a cost increase of $5,000 in CMAQ funding for Phase 2 engineering and $60,000 in CMAQ funding for construction engineering both in 2021. These also for updated construction cost estimates. This one's related to right-of-way acquisition, the delays with that. Staff recommends the approval of the requested cost increases. Fifth is the Kane County Forest Preserve Great Western Regional Bike Trail Extension from Leroy Oaks Forest Preserve to Randall Road. Sponsors requesting a schedule change for construction engineering, delaying it from 2021 to 2022. Also due to land acquisition delays and starting the condemnation process for right-of-way acquisition. Staff recommends the approval of the requested schedule change for construction engineering from 2021 to 2022 for this project. Finally, we have the Will County DOT Laraway Road at Cedar Road project. The sponsor is requesting a reinstatement of $3,154,000 in CMAQ funding following they just finished right-of-way acquisition. So staff recommends the approval of the reinstatement of this funding for construction engineering for 2021. With that, do we have any comments or questions?
So these changes are reflecting what was submitted. If there's any comments or questions from the committee members, do we have those, or does anybody have anything? All right, do I have a motion for approval?
So move, Snyder.
Thank you. Second?
Seconded by Pitstick.
Thank you. Elliot, will you conduct a roll call vote?
Darwin Burkhart,
Aye.
Doug Ferguson,
Aye.
Mark Pitstick,
Aye.
Mayor Shelkey, Chris Schmidt,
Aye.
Chris Snyder,
Aye.
Jeff Schreiber.
Aye.
All right, the project changes are approved. Thank you. Moving on to the 2022-2026 program development. We have put together a timeline for the next call for projects. It was included on the agenda for today's meeting. So the intent is to do concurrent calls with the SDP Shared Fund, opening the calls on January 8th, with the applications due by March 5th. We will report back to this committee in April on the projects that have been submitted. And then the March through June timeframe, staff will evaluate and score the individual projects submitted, and then present those results to the committee, not at a formal meeting, but just through posting on the website and through email. And then on July 1st, our intent is to present a staff recommended program for the committee's consideration, and then putting out the draft program for a public comment period from July 1st through the 30th. And then coming back to the committee with those comments September 9th, and finalizing the program at that meeting with a recommendation to TC for their consideration, and then final approval on October 13th from the CMAQ board and MPO policy committee. Any questions on that timeline from the committee members?
Doug, this is Chris Snyder. Just a question on the February 19th PL review deadline. What are they reviewing? And is the time frame from January 8th to call and whatever we're required to submit to the PL sufficient for them to complete that by the 19th?
Yes. So we held a meeting with the planning liaisons last week, and asked for their input on the review. They felt that it was sufficient time for them to review applications. What's involved in their process, they're looking to make sure that applications are submitted are complete, that the financial information is shown in the correct years, like things like matching funds are shown for the funds being requested. So it's basically just a review of how an application looks, cleaning up maybe titles and names so that it conforms with what's required for the TIP, being shown for IDOT as the process moves forward. So it's kind of the general stuff, and that due date is so that they have time to review all the applications, that somebody isn't, a local sponsor is not submitting an application for their review on the deadline, and they have to rush to make sure that everything has been completed properly. So if they find that something's missing in the application, there will be time for the applicant to submit that missing information in that 2 weeks prior to the final deadline.
So the 19th is when we submit to the PLs, not the PLs have completed the reviews, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
they will have 2 weeks, and so if there's something missing or something changes in those 2 weeks, applicants will still have a chance to modify their application before final submittal.
okay, so it's really submit by the 19th is the deadline for the agencies. Okay.
Yeah, in ETIP, it's saved as final is the action that's taken, and at which point in time the planning liaison will be notified, and they'll be able to review it, and then they'll hit submit as final.
All right, thank you.
Yep, not a problem. Any other comments or questions about the timeline? All right, great. So moving on, meeting dates for next calendar year. Staff is putting forth these following meeting dates along with the change request deadlines. These dates were developed using the Transportation Committee's schedule along with the IDOT letting schedule. And in addition, adding additional meetings in there for the purposes of the program development. So this is one more meeting than we've had this past calendar year, but we think it's necessary so that project changes can be addressed. And unless there's any objections to these dates, these will be what put forward. Obviously, we can always modify these dates if need be, based upon something occurring outside of our control. Are there any comments or questions on the meeting dates as being proposed? No. All right. If you notice something after the meeting, please feel free to let me know, either through email or a telephone call, and we'll try to address anything that might come up. Excuse me. So moving on to public comment. No public comments were received in advance of the meeting. If there's anybody in attendance that wishes to address the project selection committee, please use the chat function to let staff know, and we'll call upon you. So if anybody wishes to make public comment, please let us know right now. If there's anybody on the phone, please make yourself verbally aware that you would like to address the committee if you cannot use the chat function. We don't have anybody in the chat section wishing to make a comment. Just the second time. Anybody on the phone? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next meeting. That will be scheduled for Thursday, January 21st at 11 a.m. Unless something changes, we kind of anticipate that this will still be a virtual meeting, but obviously we will reassess it based upon the conditions that happen between now and then. Other business. Is there any other business that the committee members wish to bring forward? No. All right. Well,
Hey,
hearing none.
Doug, this is Chris Snyder. Just curious, if I recall, the latest transportation bill was just extended a year. I assume there's no adverse impact to the CMAQ program?
No adverse effect. We did see a slight decline in our numbers based upon the appropriation, federal appropriation, but nothing that causes any problems for us. Yeah, at this point in time, I mean, obviously, as we move forward, we'd like to have a federal bill over multiple years, but this seems to be the norm. Federal bill ends, and then we go into continuing resolutions. And we'll just proceed as normal and address anything that might come up in the process of the next reauthorization bill. Anybody else have any other business? All right. Hearing none, I will call for the adjournment of the CMAQ Project Selection Committee. Thank you very much.
So moved, President.